There is an idea that whatever enters the imagination must exist somewhere in the universe, as the universe is infinite, and if something does not exist, then the universe cannot be infinite. Whether we take that on board or not, it seems likely that writers and filmmakers derive their vision from areas of consciousness that may touch on some other reality that manifests in their work. Because of course, the universe is not merely physical, but exists on many different levels, and there are worlds beyond mortal sight. If we look at modern films like Avatar, a beautiful world is created, which the lower aspects of our nature tries to destroy in the form of the Sky People, who are motivated by greed and heartless cruelty. A lack of spirituality will bring this about, as we can see in modern society with its lust for territory and the destruction of wildlife and forests for the sake of filthy lucre. The love of money always corrupts, because nothing of real value can be bought with money, and the love or lust for it transforms rational human beings into wild beasts who will stop at nothing to obtain it. Money cannot buy real love, but it can purchase a false version. Its value is an illusion that degrades the soul eventually, if taken too far. Of course, there are also dark worlds that appeal to the diseased imagination of some. Fantasy writers and artists have created both of these worlds throughout the ages. Nowadays, we have dystopian horror literature and films, and also the emphasis on a dystopian future. Some may say that fantasy is just escapism from reality, but there is an argument that says it is really a portal into a greater reality. If we are to create a better world, we need a blueprint for that world. There are too many books and films that talk of this dystopian future, and this permeated into the collective consciousness of humanity. So the opposite needs to be applied. H.P. Blavatsky writes, "Imagination is a potent help in every event of our lives. Imagination also acts on faith, and both are the draftsmen who prepare the sketches for will to engrave, more or less deeply, on the rocks or obstacles and opposition with which the path of life is strewn." Says Paracelsus, "Faith must confirm the imagination, for faith establishes the will. Determined will is the beginning of all magical operations. It is because men do not perfectly imagine and believe the result that the arts of magic are uncertain, while they might be perfectly certain. This is all the secret." In the film The Never-Ending Story, a great nothing is slowly eating away at the land of Fantasia, because mankind has lost its imagination. This to me is a very potent message. It is only a boy from Earth, Bastian, who can restore it. He is given a tiny seed of light by the childlike Empress, and by the use of imagination restores Fantasia to its former glory. So it's up to us to use our imagination and will to create a better world. We won't create it by pandering to material aims and pursuits. We have to have a clear vision of something beautiful. Thought is potent, and whatever comes into being has its origins in the mind. In fact, the whole universe is said to be a product of a thought in the divine mind. Therefore, if we want a golden age to return to Earth, we need to really want it. Goethe writes, "My friend, the golden age has passed away. Only the good have the power to bring it back." Theosophical and Hindu teaching says that the golden age is not set to return for several thousand years, but there are wheels within wheels. Individuals have their golden ages within their lifetimes, or even within a day. So do countries and civilizations, as above so below, as within so without. Imagination then is a power that we should all cultivate to bring about results that those absorbed by material concepts think are impossible, and the realm of romantic dreamers. Yet the world we are living in has been created by imagination. All the great cathedrals and temples began their life in the imagination of someone, as did our crowded and noisy modern cities. But due to the lack of spirituality in society, they are mainly devoid of any beauty, artistry or poetry. No man ever work or will work well, but either from actual sight or sight of faith, says Ruskin, speaking of art, and the same thing applies to civilization in general. It does not particularly refer to a belief in a God, but can be enlightened faith in spiritual values that lead us to a love of nature and the desire not to destroy but to protect. Therefore we should have this in mind when designing buildings and making our world a more beautiful place to live in. Let us see ourselves as beautiful and spiritual beings, gentle and kind to all living things. This is who we are if we want to be. Why does the majority of society cultivate separateness and animosity towards other human beings? Does this really make any sense when looked at in an impartial way? We are just born into the centre of the storm, and most go along with the prevalent trend without thinking. But just because it is the current state of mind does not mean it is right. Many are realising that there is another way, and that they have the power to bring about change by cultivating the imagination and the will. H.P. Blavatsky states on this, "Most of men live in and by desire, mistaking it for will, but he who would achieve must separate will from desire and make his will the ruler. For desire is unstable and ever-changing, while will is steady and constant. Both will and desire are absolute creators, forming the man himself and his surroundings. But will creates intelligently, desire blindly and unconsciously. The man therefore makes himself in the image of his desires, unless he creates himself in the likeness of the divine, through his will, the child of the light." So desire needs to be purified into a desire to create a world of light and love. We need that seed of light that the childlike princess, our empress, gave to Bastian in the film The Never-Ending Story. She's something that we can all nurture in our hearts and turn so-called fantasy into reality.